Welcome back to part 4 of our 12-part Minimalism mini-series, where we're detailing the core concepts of minimalism. So far, we've covered core elements of the minimalist lifestyle, like quality over quantity, less is more, and experiences are greater than things. For a deep dive into minimalism and how it can drastically help simplify your life, make sure to go check out those earlier videos in the series. Today, though, we're talking about perhaps the concept that comes first and foremost to many people's minds when they hear the word minimalism, and that's decluttering.
We're detailing what exactly it is, what it isn't, some common misconceptions, and go over some of our favorite decluttering tips we found over our many years of being cozy minimalists ourselves. It's not about yeeting as much as possible, it's about being intentional with what you surround yourself with and learning to discern what actually adds to your life and what distracts from it. Let's get to it. What is and isn't decluttering? In a nutshell, it's getting rid of clutter. Clutter is anything you don't love, need, or use. Clutter looks wildly different from person to person because we all have different likes, dislikes, different needs and responsibilities, different lives. So it reasons that everyone's experience of decluttering is unique, and what works for one person might not resonate or work for someone else. At its core though, decluttering involves distilling your favorites of favorites and getting rid of the rest. It involves making intentional choices about what you do and don't want in your life. It's not just limited to physical possessions too. Decluttering has wonderful applications in simplifying your day-to-day life, like when you intentionally set boundaries and say no to overloading your calendar or work schedule, or even choosing very carefully who you want to spend your time with. Decluttering isn't just of the physical nature. It's really, as a concept, about actively thinking about prioritizing what's important to you and cutting down on the rest. When talking about decluttering physical possessions, by getting rid of, we mean donate, bin, recycle, or gift away. Decluttering really is an intentional act of removing what you don't want to make space for what you do.
It's not just moving one thing from room to room. It's about really sitting and asking yourself why you bought the thing in the first place, and if it serves you in this current season of life anymore, or if it's actually holding you back right now. Perhaps you're spending too much of your money on a spending habit which is fueled by the desire to hop on the latest trends, and maybe not saving that money instead is preventing you from a debt-free future. Decluttering can be uncomfortable, and I think that's why a lot of people put it off and accumulate more and more, because it can be confronting to look at where your money has gone and the things sitting on your shelf collecting dust or thrown into the backs of cupboards, the things that you thought would bring you happiness when you first clicked add to cart.
Another thing to note about what decluttering isn't, it's not organizing. The two often get confused, but decluttering and organizing are very different. Decluttering, when done correctly, uncovers the why behind past purchases, which can definitely be confronting and difficult. And by done correctly, when we're talking about decluttering, you might find it good to know that the only real criteria for decluttering correctly is to make sure that you're being mindful and intentional when finding what to keep and what to not. Learning is such a big part of decluttering. Learning things about yourself and your buying habits, learning about who you are now, and if there's any disconnect between who you want to be and what things in the future moving forward you don't want to waste your money on again.
For me, it's an excessive amount of forever changing trendy clothes filling my wardrobe to its literal breaking point. My wardrobe was a mammoth of a decluttering task that I struggled with for such a long time, spending far too much money on a stress-induced shopping habit I just couldn't seem to break because I was chasing the next greatest thing. When I finally made the choice to tackle my wardrobe and ended up decluttering it down by 80% of its original size, I learned so much about myself in the process. It was only through being intentional and mindful with looking through my clothes that I finally managed success with decluttering my overwhelming wardrobe and shopping habit and all the difficult emotions behind why I wasn't using my money responsibly and saving for the more worthwhile and important things I wanted in my future. So decluttering is getting to know yourself better, distilling your home and your life into what you find the most important. It's not a numbers game and just mindlessly getting rid of as much as possible. It's so much more than that. So now that we've had a pretty detailed rundown of what decluttering is and what it isn't, we thought we'd go over some of our favorite decluttering tips we found over the years.
First up, start easy. Start in the easiest area of your house to declutter. For most people, this will be the bathroom. It's the area of the house that is almost always the easiest to start decluttering because we typically accumulate an excessive amount of bottles, lotion, and sprays over the years, which expire. Wherever you choose to start decluttering, make sure it's an easy room, one with minimal to no sentimental items. Get the ball rolling and build momentum to declutter things you no longer need or use or even want.
Declutter one room at a time, one item at a time. Again, stick to making things as easy as possible for yourself and build momentum from there. Things can quickly get overwhelming when decluttering, and wandering from room to room trying to declutter without a system is a surefire way to make things more difficult and time consuming, more than they need to be. So declutter one room at a time, one item at a time, one step in front of the other. Excess things take years and years to accumulate, so be gentle on yourself and know that a pristine, perfectly decluttered home distilled into your favorites of favorites doesn't happen overnight. Being intentional with what you want to keep and tossing what you don't. Being actively mindful and learning from the process is important, and the one thing that will mean lasting change when it comes to keeping your home clutter-free, and your wallet will thank you.
Next, we love implementing what we call the 12 by 12 rule. This is really just asking yourself, have I used this in the past 12 months, and do I plan to use it in the next 12 months? If the answer is no, just toss it, either by popping it into your dedicated sell, donate, or trash box. We found that looking back and forward over 12 months is the perfect period of time to think about decluttering something. We use it all the time, and when you have a firm rule like this, it really helps by taking out the guesswork because you have a good preset boundary for when you'll declutter something.
Next, one of our favorite tips: donate more. Try to get into the mindset of donating more instead of selling. We know it's tempting to try and regain some of the value, but don't always put pressure on yourself to sell your no longer wanted things. Yes, there can be guilt and shame attached to certain items sometimes if you spent a lot of money on them and have come to realize that you actually never used them. But know that the money has already been spent. The thing served its purpose for the time it was needed, and now you're in a new phase of life. When we get caught up about selling items, it can completely delay the whole decluttering process, as we try to recoup the cost or justify to ourselves that it was somehow a good purchase. But it's already served its purpose for that season in your life, and it's good to sometimes just learn and let go. It'll save you time trying to sell the thing and just move it out of your home. So donate more. It's a great decluttering tip and one that served us well.
Next tip, to really help the previous one, set a sell number. We've talked about prioritizing donating items if you can to help with the whole decluttering process, but sometimes money is an important factor for certain things you spent decent money on and that you'll want to sell. So set your sell number. This is basically the number you set in your head for what you'd get out of bed for. That dollar amount you'd be happy to sell something for instead of donating it. Maybe $50 is what you'd consider worth the hassle or the sheer time of listing something on Facebook Marketplace, organizing the meetup, dodging those pesky scammers who say their brother will pay you if you give them your pay ID. Yeah, the hassle of selling things can, a lot of the time, if it's for an item of too low a value, just simply not be worth it. So figure out what your sell number is. And if you come across an item in your home that's say only worth $10 or well below your sell number, just donate it. It's been a game changer for us, actually mobilizing our unwanted things out of our house. Set a sell number and decluttering becomes a whole lot easier and faster. Also, if you're keen on knowing our top tips when it comes to decluttering faster, we've actually made an entire video about it. Check it out if you're after some super practical advice and life hacks to declutter faster.
The last decluttering tip we'll chat about today is one of our favorites. Try reverse decluttering. By this, we mean don't look for what to declutter first. Instead, look for what you want to keep. Flipping decluttering on its head like this cuts down on so much of the time-consuming decisions and distractions. When you enter a room you want to declutter, scan the room and physically go grab the favorites of the favorites first. Those are the things you can't do without, the things you love, the things you actually use. It sets a great base for what you do want, rather than trying to look for what you don't. So many people do decluttering the other way around and look for what to get rid of, and that can become overwhelming, time-consuming, and honestly far more difficult. You'll most likely start looking for justifications about why you should be keeping all of the things instead. So flip this around, and instead of looking for things to chuck, look for the things you absolutely love, the things you know you don't want to get rid of. The wardrobe is a really difficult area to declutter, and this reverse decluttering method makes things so much easier. I like to pull out all my similar-ish type of clothing, like long sleeve white tops for example, and just pick my favorite to keep. I weigh up what one I love the most, my favorite of all the favorites, and donate the rest. Once I started doing this, my wardrobe became instantly easier to manage. So there we go, decluttering, the fourth in our minimalism core concepts mini-series. Even if you don't consider yourself a minimalist, there's no denying that there's so much to be gained from its underlying ideas and concepts. Decluttering has a wonderful way of making us more mindful about where our money is going and what kinds of things we want to surround ourselves and the kind of future we value.
Like we mentioned earlier, decluttering can 100% be a difficult and daunting task, and it can be overwhelming and emotional, especially if there's complex issues like grief or trauma involved. But we're here to help. All our videos are about sharing ideas on how to make life simpler, easier and more aligned with what you find valuable and worthwhile. So if you haven't already, if you want ongoing support and inspo to help simplify your life in all areas, make sure you subscribe. We're building a wonderful little community here on YouTube and would love to have you with us. We even started a little Facebook group called Frugal Minimalists, which shares helpful tips and tricks and insightful inspo about the intersection of frugality and minimalism. So feel free to join that private Facebook group if you like. The link's in the description.
And with that, we'll finish by saying if you're struggling with decluttering your home right now, whether it's a room filled with dusty and forgotten items you just can't seem to let go of, or a wardrobe filled with difficult memories, or even an entire house crammed with reminders of a life you're trying to move on with, you're doing a great job and you'll get there. Decluttering doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years to accumulate the things in life you have. So be gentle on yourself and know that even just by being here, you're actively learning and seeking out inspiration and information that you'll use to build the life that you're after. We're wishing you all the very best of luck with your decluttering, and make sure to check out the rest of this playlist for the other videos in our minimalism mini-series, as well as the description below for all the helpful links and resources we've chatted about today. Let us know in the comments below, what room in your house do you need to declutter? We'd love to know. And with that, we'll catch you all next time. Bye. You look like twins. Winning.
Winning.